A pirate king vanished with the greatest treasure ever taken from the sea. This is the true story of Henry Avery, a man who went from the world's most wanted criminal to a respectable colonial governor, pulling off one of history's most stunning reinventions. By the end, you will understand exactly how he disappeared and built a new life in plain sight. We will uncover the audacious identity switch that let a notorious pirate become a pillar of the British Empire and explore the lingering mystery of his final fate. What does it take to completely erase your past and start over? Henry Avery's story begins far from the high seas in the quiet English county of Devon. He first learned the ways of the ocean not as an outlaw, but as a sailor in the Royal Navy, later serving on privateer vessels licensed to attack enemy ships. This legitimate career path gave him a deep understanding of naval warfare and the immense profits to be made from plunder, planting a seed of ambition that would eventually grow out of control. His life took its irreversible turn in 1694 aboard the Charles II, a Spanish ship hired to hunt pirates. The crew, including Avery, grew desperate after months of delayed pay and harsh conditions. Seizing his moment, Avery led a swift and bloodless mutiny, convincing the men to take the ship for themselves. In that instant, the naval sailor vanished, and the pirate captain was born, renaming the vessel the Fancy and setting a new course for infamy. His most audacious strike came just a year later in the Indian Ocean. The target was the Ganj-i-Sawai, a magnificent flagship of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, rumored to carry a fortune in gold, silver, jewels, and pilgrims returning from Mecca. After a fierce battle, Avery and his crew captured the vessel, securing what was likely the single richest plunder ever taken by a pirate. The sheer scale of the treasure was staggering, making Avery the richest pirate in the world overnight. He earned a new title, the Arch-Pirate, a name that echoed across empires, but this legendary success came at a devastating cost. The attack was a profound insult to the powerful Mughal Empire, which pressured the British East India Company with threats of expulsion, leading to an unprecedented international manhunt. Henry Avery was now the most wanted man on earth, with the king's ransom on his head and no nation willing to offer him shelter. This colossal success, which should have been his ultimate triumph, instead became the very thing that forced him to disappear forever. With the treasure secured and the world closing in, Henry Avery executed his most brilliant maneuver. He vanished. Around 1696, the man known as the Arch-Pirate simply evaporated from the pages of history. His ship, the Fancy, disappeared from the shipping lanes, and the most extensive manhunt of the age came up empty. How does the world's most wanted criminal simply cease to exist? The answer lies in a combination of immense wealth and a world ripe for reinvention. One theory suggests he sailed for the Bahamas, a notorious haven for pirates where a well-placed bribe could buy silence and a new name. Another points to Ireland, where a wealthy gentleman could settle on a remote estate far from prying eyes. The most audacious theory claims he slipped back into England itself, hiding in the very heart of the empire that sought his capture. His incredible fortune was the key that unlocked these possibilities. In an era where colonial officials were often underpaid and corrupt, a chest full of gold and jewels could purchase not just passage, but a complete new identity, forged papers, and the complicit silence of powerful men. The political landscape worked in his favor. Communication across the Atlantic was slow, and record-keeping was haphazard. A man with enough money could arrive in a new colony, claim to be a merchant from London, and be accepted based on his apparent wealth and manners alone. Yet the pressure was immense. Contemporary documents like the proclamations issued by the British Crown and the frantic letters from the East India Company show a net closing across 2 continents. Ports were watched, former crewmen were arrested and interrogated, and his description was circulated from the Americas to India. This makes his successful disappearance not just lucky, but a masterclass in deception. He did not just run and hide. He used his plunder to transform himself from a hunted outlaw into someone else entirely, leaving behind one of history's most enduring puzzles. Where did the pirate king go, and who did he become when he walked away? The most audacious answer to his disappearance lies not in a hidden cave or a remote farm, but in the governor's mansion of a pirate kingdom. Decades after the arch-pirate vanished, a man named Governor John Avery appears in the historical records of New Providence in the Bahamas. This was not just any island. In the early 1700s, New Providence was the epicenter of piracy in the Atlantic, a lawless republic of thieves where men like Blackbeard and Charles Vane operated with impunity. The name Avery was, of course, a common alternate spelling of Every. The timing is uncanny. This Governor Avery took power just a few years after Henry Every's disappearance, a period when the real Every would have been seeking the ultimate sanctuary. How could the world's most wanted man become a colonial governor? The corrupt and chaotic environment of the Bahamas provided the perfect opportunity. The islands were nominally under British control, but the royal governors sent from London were often underpaid, weak, and easily manipulated. For a man sitting on a mountain of treasure, bribing the right officials to secure a false identity and a governorship was entirely possible. A massive infusion of gold could buy the silence of clerks, the endorsement of powerful patrons in London, and the compliance of local enforcers. He would not be a fugitive hiding in the shadows, but a respected official operating in broad daylight. Once in power, Governor Avery possessed the perfect cover. Who better to hunt pirates than a former pirate king? He could publicly lead campaigns against the very outlaws he once sailed with, all while secretly controlling the flow of illicit trade and protecting his old associates when it suited him. He could issue pardons to some while condemning others, skillfully managing the pirate ecosystem to maintain his own power and security. This was not just hiding, it was a masterful act of reinvention. He used his deep insider knowledge of the pirate world to play the part of a reformed hunter so convincingly that his past became invisible. The pirate became the law, using his new position to erase his old life while never truly leaving the world that made him. The trail of evidence for Governor Avery begins with a name. In official correspondence from the Bahamas in the early 1700s, the name John Avery appears repeatedly in connection with the island's turbulent governance. This was not merely a similar name, it was the exact alternate spelling used for Henry Every in the official wanted posters and court documents of the era. The coincidence is striking, but the historical record is frustratingly thin. No portrait of Governor Avery survives, and his physical description in colonial logs is vague at best. We know Henry Every was described as a well-spoken man of average build with a dark complexion, a description that could fit countless individuals, including a colonial official. The timeline, however, is where the theory faces its greatest challenge. Henry Every disappeared around 1696. The first solid records of a Governor John Avery in the Bahamas do not appear until after 1700. This gap of several years is a chasm that skeptics point to, arguing it leaves too much time unaccounted for. Where was he during those missing years? Proponents of the theory suggest this was his incubation period, a time spent using his wealth to forge a new identity and secure political appointments far from London's prying eyes. The arguments against this audacious theory are equally compelling. Many respected historians believe Henry Every never achieved such a lofty position. They argue that the pressure from the Mughal Empire and the East India Company was simply too great. Some contemporary accounts suggest he attempted to return to England but was cheated out of his fortune and died in penniless obscurity, a bitter end for the king of pirates. Other theories place his final days in Ireland or even Madagascar, living quietly on his remaining plunder. These narratives are supported by the sheer number of his crewmen who were eventually captured and hanged. If so many of his men were caught, how did the most famous pirate of them all slip through the net to become a governor? The counter-argument hinges on the nature of his wealth. While his crew received shares, Every, as captain, would have controlled the lion's share of the Ganj-i-Sawai's treasure. This immense, concentrated fortune gave him options his crewmen simply did not have. He could buy a completely new life, while they could only buy temporary hiding places. What makes the governor theory so enduring are the powerful coincidences that go beyond a simple name. Consider the pirate networks that dominated the Atlantic. For a new governor to effectively control a nest of pirates like New Providence, he would need insider knowledge. Who had more knowledge than Henry Avery? He would understand their codes, their loyalties, and their routes. This would make him exceptionally effective at the political theater of appearing to crack down on piracy while secretly managing it. Furthermore, colonial corruption was not just a possibility, it was a standard practice. Underpaid officials were notoriously open to bribes. A massive financial contribution to the right person in London could easily secure a governorship for a man presenting himself as a wealthy merchant eager to serve the crown. The real mystery is not whether it was possible, but whether Henry Avery was bold enough to attempt it. The same man who orchestrated the most lucrative pirate heist in history certainly possessed the audacity to try. He did not just want to disappear, he wanted to win. Becoming a governor was the ultimate victory, a way to reclaim power and status under the protection of the very government that hunted him. This is why the legend persists, a tantalizing possibility that one of history's greatest outlaws may have ended his days not in hiding, but in a governor's mansion overseeing the very world he once ruled. The story of Henry Avery is a breathtaking arc from anonymity to infamy and back into the shadows. He traveled a complete circle, beginning as a common sailor, rising to become the world's most wanted pirate king, and potentially ending his days as a respectable colonial governor. His journey reveals a startling truth about the golden age of piracy, that it was one of the few arenas where a man could violently seize his own social mobility. With enough gold and audacity, a person could literally purchase a new identity and a new place in the world, leaping from the bottom rung of society to the very top. This is the ultimate pirate fantasy, not just the treasure chest, but the clean escape, the power to rewrite your own life story and have the world accept the forgery as truth. We are captivated by his story centuries later because it represents a profound escape from consequence, a victory of cleverness over the entire system of justice. It asks a deeply compelling question: can a person truly become someone new? The evidence for his transformation into Governor Avery is a tantalizing web of coincidences, but the historical record remains frustratingly incomplete. So we are left with the enduring mystery: did Henry Avery successfully pull off his greatest heist, stealing a governorship and living out his life in powerful anonymity? Or did the arch-pirate meet a quieter, more obscure end, cheated of his fortune and forgotten by history? The truth is still out there, buried in forgotten archives, or waiting to be pieced together from new discoveries. What do you believe happened to the Pirate King? Share your theories in the comments below, and let us know which other enigmatic figures from history you would like us to investigate. For more journeys into the past's greatest mysteries, subscribe and join us on the next adventure.